Hello, I'm Clare Jacobson. I'm the teenage and young adult cancer psychologist who does some work with the Brain Tumour charity. So thank you, Brain Tumour charity, for asking me to do a bit of a talk today about managing coronavirus. We know that patients with a brain tumour are just like anyone else in the world. There's a lot of anxiety around, there's a lot of uncertainty. It's only natural that we connect to that. And I think anyone who says, don't worry, don't be too anxious, it's like saying, the bee's going to sting you, but it's not going to hurt. You know, if a bee stings you, you're going to be in pain, but there are ways of dealing with that pain. Just like at the moment, if anxiety is around in the air, the feeling of threat is present for us, we're going to feel that as well. If you have a brain tumour and you've made the decision to go ahead with surgery and that's been booked and you're waiting, it can feel like everything's on hold until you have it done. Now there's uncertainty over that. And I think a lot of people in that position can feel like they're just treading water, almost as if they've got a path they want to walk down, but there's some barricade here and a barricade here and they can't move forward, they can't move back, they're just stuck there until the barriers lift after they've had the treatment or after they've had the scan that's coming up and they've got the results. So we need to figure out a way where people don't feel trapped in a bubble, unable to move. They can actually walk down that path whilst holding on to that uncertainty in a slightly different way. There are other patients who are going to be going through chemotherapy, going through radiotherapy. That stuff is difficult to go through anyway, but especially within this context. So it could be that the anxiety that's around in the air for everyone feels a bit more amplified. And of course, we don't exist in isolation. We exist in families, in relationships, in systems. The meaning of COVID-19 is not a discrete event. It's a process. Its meanings are multiple and they change with time. The meanings are relational, financial, political, medical, social, and so on and so on. And those meanings will keep evolving. And our position in relation to that will change as well. I'm going to talk about a number of tips and things you can do for anxiety, uncertainty, distress. But before I do that, I think it's really important to say that I don't see anxiety as something that exists within a person. I would never use language like you are anxious, you have anxiety, because it very much locates it within you, inside you, like a problem. Anxiety is a useful emotion. It alerts us to danger, it alerts us to threat. It's what's helped us to evolve and survive. And what I tend to do with people is externalize the anxiety, talk about it as if it's a person or a thing. If you have a think now, if I said, what would anxiety look like? What colour would it be? It would likely at sometimes be huge and really towering over you and crippling you. And at other times you could probably shrink it right down to the size of a matchbox. So it's not something that's always within us causing problems, but sometimes it's overwhelming and sometimes you can shrink it right down. So I might say to you, if anxiety had a voice, what would it sound like? What would it say to you? What would it want you to stop doing? What would anxiety be trying to get you to do? What name would we give it? What would you want to say back to anxiety? What would your loved one want to say to anxiety? And if you do that, you can start to have a bit of a dialogue with it and you can start to move forward with that relationship. Once you've externalized it in that way, we can start thinking about how we carry anxiety around with us, because it's always going to be there. It's part of life. Life is never completely threat-free.
And I'm basing this on a model called ACT, Acceptance and Commitment Therapy, which essentially says we need to open up to distress, make space for it. And I'll tell you more about what I mean by that. One of the techniques that's really important is to ground ourselves in the present. And we'll come on to that with an exercise at the end of this. And in amongst all of that, it's really important to work out what matters to us. How do we want to spend our time on this planet? And we'll come on to that too.